Hey, this is the Solo Gamer, also known as Matt, and today we're doing something a little different, I suppose. Pardon me. Um, Mostly doing this to get my own thoughts and feelings out on a subject, but I kind of feel like I should do this regardless.
Another step closer to a successful operation.
I'll be playing the Helldivers update with the Exosuit while we're at it,
The Malevolon Creek System.
but um, so a couple things have happened recently, and
Jump complete.
honestly,
Mission
I
coordinates locked.
actually didn't even think about doing this video until I had a couple of days to process it. Now, to give you a bit of an idea as to what I'm on about, I'm a fan of Dragon Ball. If you know why that's important, then you already know what this is about. But to boil it down real fast, Wednesday it was announced that Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, passed away. Apparently a long-term subdural hematoma. He was 68 years old. Didn't look it. Still looked pretty young for all that. But essentially, we just lost one of the founding members of anime as a medium, at least in the modern age. For what it's worth, I grew up with all the usual stuff: Speed Racer, the early Dragon Ball did air in my area, though it was a disjointed and badly thrown together mess. But for what it's worth, Dragon Ball was, for lack of a better word, really the first true introduction to anime I think I ever had. And it's fair to say that it had a interesting impact on my life. I think it did for a lot of people. But for what it's worth, I greatly admired Toriyama and the work he did. He was a standout member, and one of the main reasons why anime found a home in the West. I mean, Dragon Ball is, for lack of a better term, one of the all-time greats. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, it's outlasted entire genres of film and television and all kinds of other stuff.
Southeast, 50 meters.
Now, I wasn't always a fan of some of his stuff. Like, Dr. Slump was funny. It was pretty amusing, but it was also very much a product of its era, gag manga. And I don't think it didn't click with me as a youth like it did as an adult. Now I find it hilarious, but that's probably because my sense of humor's changed. And he was working on a new project called Sandland, which was apparently also like, if you look at it, you can clearly see where he was going with this shit. But I think that a lot of it is...
Tagging map, east, 100 meters.
I think a lot of it is that he never stopped. He always kept working. And in a lot of ways, I can kind of respect the fact that he never gave up and never quit. He was always trying to keep working. He did Chrono Trigger. He was the main artist for the Dragon Quest series for years. He worked on Blue Dragon for the Xbox in an attempt to broaden the Xbox's appeal in Japan. An admirable effort. doomed to failure, sadly. But I still admire him for trying. But the man never stopped. He was always doing something. Even after Dragon Ball was gone, and then they did that absolutely
Dropping a pin.
atrocious
South. 100 meters.
live action film that was just, I'm sorry. There are people who say they're fans of it. You're lying. There are no fans of that movie. The only thing that movie deserves is a swift and brutal burial in the annals of time.
How about a nice cup of liver tea?
But yeah, trying to get my thoughts back on track. In a real sense, I think Toriyama was a man who, for all that you can say, he did what he wanted, and worked on the things he liked, and made arguably some of the most iconic and beloved characters in all of history. And I don't say that lightly. Like, the man genuinely probably contributed more to the industry
Attacking
than
map. Northeast.
anyone
100
you
meters.
might realize. I mean, the guy literally created some of the most well-loved and well-respected animated characters and series in human history. The fact that it crossed the sea and got to America is proof of that. Like, the guy literally, it probably has one of the most well-known and well-recognized, animated series in American history. Problem dealt with. And I don't think anyone would disagree with that. It's hard to argue when he created something that has been seen by literally millions, probably billions across the world. I mean, I don't think that's an exaggeration. Even brought back to a point where it's like, the Dragon Ball movie was so shitty that he was like, all right, fine, I'll come back and show you retards how it's done.
Bag's empty.
And you can see his influence in gaming too. Chrono Trust, Chrono Trigger, Dragon's Quest, probably others. Blue Dragon, like I mentioned. And a game that it is almost a shame that game didn't really get the recognition it deserved, but I don't think it ever really had a prayer, if I'm being honest. But end of the day, I think that a lot of the stuff that he did is going to outlive us all. And his legacy will probably live on for as long as any of us can imagine. So it is indeed a sad, sad day. The loss of a man of such good cheer, determination. I think a lot of people would be understandably and rightly angry that this guy, the guy who did so much for the world, is gone. But I think it's important that we all recognize the good he did for the world. So, for what it's worth,
Bag's empty.
I'm glad that he was with us and that
Bag's empty.
he was here for as long as he was.
No diver. Never die. Prosperity.
But it's a sad day to lose such a great legend, a man of undeniable and incalculable value. I mean, I'm a normal guy. I'm an everyday Joe who does all I do for a living is help people fix their problems You know, I work for a company where my job is just helping people get their stuff working again. I have no issue with that. I'm happy with the job I do. But it's fair enough that he'll probably be his legacy will live on long past mine, yours, or anyone else's. And to be fair, yeah, I kind of think that's how it really needs to be.
Spot outpost!
But that's only part of why that's only part of what made me want to do this. The other part of it was well, I did a video not too long ago about Sweet Baby. And as you may remember, they were the scumbag game consultancy group that got into a shitstorm of trouble and is now
Northwest, 300
basically
meters.
facing decimation because at the rate things are going, they'll probably not be getting a whole lot of work in the near future. But here's the problem. The whole reason this debacle started was because after his passing, a lot of people were genuinely just distraught over the man's loss.
Ready to live.
Myself and others were all feeling just a severe loss to the world. One of Sweet Baby's co-founders decided to start throwing shade at Toriyama. It didn't go well, and to say that he, well, has not been well received is a understatement of profound levels. But that's the problem, is like, where in our society did a man's passing suddenly become something to be used for political points? I hadn't said a word about it, online or off, for days. I was too shocked, too numb. I mean, hell, I had to refocus on work and just coast and just get through it because a big part of my mind was just empty. Now, I feel genuinely that, you know, this incident has made me so angry. Who are these people who think that they suddenly have any right to talk about a man who will probably outlive anything they ever accomplish? And I was just absolutely mortified by it. So as you can imagine, I've been angry about that, and I am glad to see that the scuzzbucket who made that statement got utterly and completely annihilated.
How'd you like the taste of freedom?
But that being said, it kind of put me in a different mindset than I anticipated. And it also made me realize something. The biggest issue we have as a society right now is that we are so tribalized. I mean, I'll be the first to say it. There are people who in this world I feel do not deserve to exist in it, period. And I would never hesitate to make that argument. But that is mostly my own rage boiling out. But the fact that it's now to a point where a man's passing can be treated so disrespectfully, I honestly would have driven all the way to Canada, where this scumbucket lives, and beaten them to within an inch of their life and left them crippled for the rest of existence, just to prove a point to him about how much of a dick he is. Or her, or whatever, I don't know. With these people, you can never goddamn tell, but I do feel like we have lost a sense of general respect, especially when it comes to something like the passing of a man who really should command more respect than that kind of behavior. end of the day, I do feel like we should try to dial it back a bit.
Preparing for touchdown.
I don't know that we can. I think it's gotten too far. I think we're way past the point of return in that regard.
Down initiated. Stand
I
by
mean,
for
just
takeoff.
look at the political
Extraction complete.
landscape.
Pelican 1 beginning ascent.
No matter how you either candidate, sheer, and I mean absolute tribalism on it is just atrocious. The whole situation gave me a kind of unremitting sadness, and I mean that with absolute, with no hesitation. I felt just unbelievably sad about the matter. It's probably the best example I can think of as to why I sometimes think we as a society need to all take a collective step back and just say, no, this has gone too far. I think the first thing that we gotta do is the mainstream media, social media, all of it needs to be reevaluated, because I think that's where a lot of this comes from. Now, I do understand the desire to speak. I do understand everybody has the right to be in discussion, and that's, yeah, I'm 100% for it. I'm a First and Second Amendment advocate.
Democracy's reach extends a
I
bit
do think,
further
however, that
thanks to you.
those are based upon an understanding and respect that we don't have anymore. We've lost. And a big part of my soul feels like if we really wanted to
Mission coordinates
solve that problem,
Hellpots Prime.
we absolutely would be looking at shutting down Fox, CNN, MSDNC. And I will not apologize. They are what they are. They are the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, and you will never convince me otherwise on that. But I say shut them all down. Shut down most of the big newspapers. Basically, go through the whole thing with a massive scythe, and just wipe out every and anything that shows significant or massive bias one way or the other. And I know a lot of people think, well, that's hardly fair. It's like, no, kinda has to be done. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the concept of a purge, but at this point, I don't see any other way. You want to dispute my argument, that's perfectly fine. I understand.
100 meters.
But, you know what? Show me where any of these news organizations have any right to continue existence at this point. As far as I'm concerned, their removal, their deletion, would be a massive net positive for our
Found
country.
something.
Well, when you're looking to solve the problem,
Tagging map. East, 100 meters.
got something down in my throat that ain't playing nice. There we go. I like the new laser cannon. It's been upgraded and now does a lot more damage. It even punches through some low-level armor stuff, but it does take time.
Tagging map. Northeast, 100 meters.
Something big just went up over there, I guess. Solving problems with the power of the sun. I love the orbital depth laser. For when everything in the general area just has to be utterly obliterated. Alright. So where am I headed now?
Tagging map. North. 100 meters.
Really wish I could. I really need to get that upgrade so I can get better radar coverage, and really need to figure out where the, or what the SAM sites look like on the map. Because they're like the best weapon in the map if you can get them.
Fire in the hole! Get some! Get some! Dropping a pin. East. 100 meters.
Alright, I think that mops up that area.
Tagging map. South. 200 meters.
Alright, let's try and skirt around them. I'm not looking for a straight up fight right now. On ammo. And I'm low on grenades, so let's not get into that. It definitely looks like it could be.
Tactical asset near your position.
Dropping a pin. East. 100 meters. Tagging map. Southeast. 200 meters. Tagging map. Southeast. 300 meters.
Probably resupply while I'm here.
Sending down equipment package.
So yeah. Anyway, getting back on my train of thought. So the guy who assaulted Toriyama got immediately dismantled. There's rumors he may have been fired. Nobody's confirmed it yet. Honestly, if he's been fired, I have absolutely zero sympathy. Brought that on himself. But at the same token, I almost feel like I'm being hypocritical because him getting fired is, at times I wonder if it's similar to, all the yelling and screaming we did about cancel culture when the left was the ones primarily perpetrating it. And it occurs to me that I suppose it's a matter of perspective or degrees.
Dropping a pin. South. 100 meters.
I don't know. A part of me feels like, yeah, maybe it's fair to point out that these guys have been absolute scuzzbuckets and that they probably deserve to, wind up in the dustbin of history. But where does it end, I don't know. I suppose long term, this is all gonna have to level itself back out down the road, but I do feel like this is a situation where hopefully some people will learn a modicum of respect, but I don't think there's much of that left on this earth, at least not here. On the other hand, the outpouring of support Toriyama's received is, I can't explain or even give voice
Tagging map.
to how
Northeast.
beautiful it's been.
200 meters.
He has been honored with tributes, videos, artwork, music. In many of his games, there was entire sections of silence where people stood and did the sharing your energy pose from Goku Spirit Bomb in solidarity for his passing. That's gorgeous. And I do think that that's a solid representation and a important reminder that there are things in this world that can bring us together, and there are things in this world that can divide us. And I think what's really gone wrong as of late is the division part more than anything. Like, I think we got so divided and so separated from, each other by this whole, the partisanship, the tribalism, all that jazz. I think that was, in many ways, the driving force behind this. I think that if this brings certain groups back together and can help us sort of get past this conflict, I'm glad for that, because I think that's something we all really need. And it would be a wonderful addition to his legacy if even in his passing, we all came together and found a better path forward. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but I'm hoping that something good will come out of something so sad. I think there's a saying where someone says, you judge a man by the friends he keeps and by the enemies he's made. And if that's the case, Toriyama was truly a legend, because he's made friends all across the world, and the people who would view themselves as his enemies are utterly the lowest of the
How
low.
about a nice cup of liberty?
Me, I'm glad to have had the good fortune to experience the man's amazing work.
For prosperity.
Whoops. See, that's the thing. I like that laser gun, but Damn, those guys are gonna be tough to kill.
Democracy has
Oh, I
landed.
pulled it off. I actually land down the airborne part. Yeah, I think that for all intents and purposes, I don't know what the plan is now because I know that he was working on projects before he passed and that they're not sure whether they're going to continue them or not. Similar to what happened when Murata-san died, the creator of Berserk. I feel conflicted because on one hand I'd like to see his work
Dropping a
continue,
pin. Southwest.
and I'd
100
like to see
meters.
it recognized and remembered.
Eagle 1, we're back in business.
On the other side, I still feel like it may be simply more respectful to let the man rest and leave his legacy as it is, but again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too conflicted right now to have an opinion. Either way, I will still continue to love the work that he did. Chrono Trigger remains resolutely as one of my favorite games ever created. I have absolutely zero doubt that the man's work is going to be remembered for as long as I'm alive, that's for sure. If not long beyond my time. But that's the question. Like, what do they do now? Suppose if it were up to me, I'd let it be. I'd put an end into it and just let his work stand on its own.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
But it's fair to perhaps want to see what he did finish. I wouldn't blame anyone for that.
T-minus 1 minute.
This thing is tough. Armed heavily, so it can handle itself pretty well. Kind of wish it had autocannons or lasers instead of the machine gun. Although I've heard they're going to be adding more weapons to it, which is cool. But
ETA T-minus 30 seconds.
all right, let's start the party with a barbecue. Oh, right. That was a mistake on my part. Oops. My bad.
Joining the fray.
T-minus 10 seconds.
Where's my sample pack? There it is.
Pelican 1, arriving at coordinates. This is Pelican 1, preparing for touchdown.
I believe.
Extraction complete. Pelican 1 begins
So
descent.
yeah, that whole thing has me feeling uncharacteristically nostalgic, I suppose. But we lost a great man. We lost a lot of good people over the last 4 or 5 years. Hard to not think that this is a dark time when we're seeing so many good people go away. I'm still hopeful that this year will be a turning point that will see some sort of balance and civility restored. I'm frightened about what might come, but the fact that his passing brought so many people together and unified them gives me some hope that maybe we can come back together and try and find our way back. Looks like we've abandoned 11 Long Creek because I am the only one left, apparently. Not that I necessarily blame you. Honestly, yeah.
Well done. The enemy barely noticed our presence before we pulled out.
That being said, this rambling's gone on long enough, and I think I'll end it here.
Managed democracy calls for aid. Only you can answer, Helldiver.
Why do I keep hearing Savala every time he speaks, even though I know that the actor for that character is gone? That is disconcerting. Okay, anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it here. Just wanted to get my thoughts out. Remember the man and remember what good he did for the industry, for pretty much all of us who were fans of his work, who were fans of the art form, who were fans of games. And let's see if we can't use this to maybe come together and do some good against the more toxic forces that have come across in our industry and in our countries and in our world. Maybe do some good for it. Either way, my name's Matt, Solo Gamer, and I will see you guys next time. Maybe you'll catch me on a dive someday. Peace out, take care.